Hey, sixth grade. So in order for us to create our value study background for our Enchanted Forest project, all you are going to need is a watercolor piece of paper and one of these water cups that you guys will share with your table and a pencil. So just to start out, we are going to trace the water cup. It doesn't matter if you use the top or the bottom. I prefer to use the top. No, I'm going to use the bottom. You can put it anywhere really on your paper. This is a good idea to start thinking about if you are going to have your paper and your design facing landscape or portrait ways. Completely up to you what you want to do. For mine, I would like it to be landscape, so I'm going to have it horizontal. I'm going to place my cup somewhere up near the corner because this is going to be my sun. And all I have to do is take my pencil and very carefully trace my cup. Now I'm doing it pretty dark because I want this to show up in the video, but for you guys, please use light pressure when you're doing all of these pencil lines because it's just gonna be a lot harder to cover up with the paint once we get to that step. Now, once I have my moon, I'm ready to start creating basically the layers for my value study. So I need about 1 inch spaces where I'm going to paint the different values of my color. So I can either use a ruler if I really wanted to get technical and measure 1 inch out all the way from my moon to the end of my paper, or I can just use my knuckle. This part of your hand is usually about 1 inch, and since I'm just going to need almost 1 inch, I think this is just fine to use instead of taking out a ruler and measuring everything. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring in a straight line from my moon, and I'm going to do a dot every time I place my finger, basically 1 inch each time until I get to the end of my paper. Then I'm just going to carefully trace in little circles, just eyeballing it again. It doesn't have to be perfect so that I know where I need to stop and make a new value as I go away from my moon. And that'll make a lot more sense once you see the painting get started. So now you can see that I have my moon and I have each of my 1 inch sections. They are not perfect at all, but you can tell from the video, I just really lightly traced them in with my pencil just so I could get an idea of where I'm gonna put my paint. Now, to begin painting, what you're gonna need, for every table you will need 1 water cup filled with water. Each person will need their own paintbrush, and you will also get acrylic paint. Please note that acrylic paint will not come out of your clothes if you get it on you, so we are going to use aprons, and we use magazines as our paint palettes. All you need is 1 pump of paint for 1 day, basically, because you won't use 2 pumps. So for me, I chose purple to use for my value scale, so I needed purple and I also needed white to create my values. And what I'm gonna do is I am just going to take a little piece using my brush of white, making a new pile. And since I'm gonna start at the moon, which was gonna be my lightest color, moving my way darker and darker and darker as I go, I'm actually just going to use white in the tiniest little bit of purple to make my first value. And as I'm mixing, you'll see it turning into a nice violet color. You can tell that I'm not painting my entire paint palette. I want to save this paint, so I'm making like a little clump to mix. I'm not swooshing it all around because that's just going to waste paint. Then once I have my color, I'm just going to fill in my moon with that color. I know it's really difficult to see because this color is almost white. If you need to add a little bit of water to your mix, go for it. If you ever need to add more, like I didn't make enough, so that's fine. I'm just going to take a little bit more. Oh, too much purple. A little bit more purple, mix that up, and reapply. So the next few steps I'll do in time lapse, but essentially what I'm doing is with every new shade or every section of my paper, I'm gonna be making a new color. So I started pretty light with my moon because I'm showing that value study. I need to go all the way from light to dark. So once I have my moon filled in, I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna make my next color. And my next color, I'm going to make it right on this pile because I just need it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to use a little bit of purple. Ooh, that was a lot. And make my next color. You don't want to have a very dramatic change because it's going to be really hard if you go all the way really dark purple on this section. What are you going to do with all of these other sections? So I am making just a little bit of a darker color than my moon to paint for that first section. And I'll just go and make sure that it is darker, which I can see that it is. And I'm just carefully going around painting this section my darker purple color. I'm going to time lapse this so that I don't bore you, but stay tuned for the final product.